was like, somebody passed on the energetic baton to me as the example of how to run a room, even as a dance captain, how to clean numbers, how to keep everybody in line or molding them the way you wish to mold them. So I really think that the large part of our industry is just following suit with what they've known. And personal development wasn't something that people talked about, certainly not decades ago or knew about. I didn't even know what I didn't know either. And I think that that's also ultimately the biggest thing, is we all are functioning at a level that we're all doing our best at this current moment. And the people who don't even understand what personal development is, or that there are tools and ways to be coached or mentored to allow ourselves to release some of the trauma.
Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Susanne Puerschel, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or sip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Point to Rise podcast. Today's guest is Christy Little. Christy and I go, well, not way back, but it feels like we're going way back. So I met her a year ago via LinkedIn, and we connected over our past as professional dancers. And this is how we became friends. Definitely something that I never would have taken in consideration prior to me stepping into a different version of myself. However, she is one of my dearest people that I can't wait to, when we can travel again, hug and hold tight. Christy is a former professional ballet dancer that turned wellness entrepreneur. She is very passionate about assisting people to find their health and wellness goals, to find a healthy body, a healthy mind, and a soul connection to create their ideal lifestyle. Christy is also a best-selling author and illustrator. So I can't wait for you to listen to this episode. Enjoy. And as always, I'd love to hear feedback. Christy, thank you so much for being on the show today. We're giggling right now because we already took 5 minutes to talk, and we just remembered, perhaps we should press record to actually have an episode ready today. Otherwise, we just chit-chat, and it's out somewhere, but not for you. So, Christy, my love, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you taking the time again to chat. And I wanted to share something. I looked into my archives, and there was an episode that you and I did last year around this time. And I started listening to it, debating whether or not to use it. And I was like, no, we're not those people anymore. We're completely different people. And it showed me that, wow, 365 days can make such a huge difference if you do one little thing every single day.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would actually be very interested to hear that, because I know from seeing some of my Facebook lives as they pop up in memories from a year or 2 years ago. My husband can tell. He doesn't even have to look at the video or what date. He'll say, "That's old, isn't it?" It's very interesting. Yeah, it's very cool. Growth is cool.
Yes, it is. Okay, so I did a little introduction, but I don't want to take anything away. If you just want to tell us how you came to dance, where where you danced and how you got out of it. May not sound really nice, but why you stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
start there.
So my mom was the most beautiful mother, and she was just encouraging me as a young child to just find whatever was the right fit for me. So in the beginning, as soon as I could walk, she started putting me in activities, gymnastics. I did Girl Scouts or brownies or all the things. I did soccer. Gosh, that was definitely not for me. And dance was the thing that really stuck. And she really gave me the allowance at such a young age. I started dancing at 4 to just tell her whether I enjoyed something or not. And she, without any pressure, just allowed me to navigate that. And, through trial and tribulation, the dance stuck the most. And by 8, I was training very intensely. I come from an area of the US that the competitive dance field is very big, and it's very, I want to say, prestigious in that area. There's a lot of really well-trained studios that actually, not just, for glitz and glam, but they really do understand how to train dancers at a professional level. So I was very blessed to grow up in that area. I was 45 minutes out of Boston. So I was in pre-professional Boston youth companies in my teenage years. And then right out of high school, I moved to New York City, which again, I'm very grateful. My parents gave me the allowance. They didn't restrict me, saying I had to go get a degree even in dance or in anything else. They said, whatever you feel called to do, we are supportive. So I got into the Ailey School on scholarship, and I didn't feel like college was in alignment. I really wanted to move right to the city. So I trained there for 2.5 years on scholarship, and I left, and the universe naturally pulled me, oddly enough, into the musical theater end of entertainment. I really actually don't even know how I ended up there. I just started auditioning, and that's kind of what stuck. And I was classically trained. I loved that area, but I also loved all kinds of genres. And, musical theater really opened up a whole world for me to take all of my training and all of my disciplines and be able to put them to use, because so many musicals call for all different styles. So I spent a good portion of my professional career in the musical theater industry. I worked all over the country in different theaters, and I also performed and was dance captain for Princess Cruise Lines. And so that's really what the next decade or so of my life looked like. My body started to break down a bit, and I wasn't really sure how to navigate it. And I kind of put myself in an early retirement without really giving myself any trials and tribulations around what might be happening. I was kind of in a negative mind space, and that's where the start of the unraveling of entertainment came for me. I had just gotten to a point where I allowed the industry to make me very jaded. I was very negative. I just really got wrapped up in the energy space of entertainment that sometimes can happen. So I was choreographing, I was directing, I was a company manager for an entertainment company in Vegas, and none of them really felt like home for me like the stage did. So not really knowing what else I wanted to do with my life, I was very, very deeply identified with being a dancer. And I didn't think that I had anything else to offer the world. I didn't feel like I had any other worthiness outside of just me, dancing. So, and I had no voice. That led me 3 years ago to seek some changes in my health, to change the way I was feeling my body and what I was fueling my body with. It had always been about just being thin for me. And if I had a 6-pack, I really didn't focus on health. I focused on what I looked like. So I wouldn't say, because I know a lot of people that have eating disorders. I wouldn't say I had an eating disorder, but I would tell you that I had a very warped view and perspective of my body. I was obsessed with pinching every aspect of me, and our costumes, especially in musical theater and on cruise ships, are very non-existent. So we're supposed to look a certain way. And I actually, you really, I have to tell you, I listened to one of your podcasts a week ago, and a new light bulb went off for me in a very deep way of just understanding where I was at in this industry. And you said that, I might be paraphrasing, but you said that feeling the way your body looked and you being thin was a level of beauty for yourself and a level of worthiness. And I deeply, deeply resonated with that, because I truly only felt beautiful if I was, the size 0. Yes. If I had the 6-pack on, in my midriff, and when I was dancing. So I have come to understand that in the last 3 years of really working on myself, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So through the change of my lifestyle, what I was putting in my body, it allowed me to transform and activate a strength and a stamina that I didn't have a few years prior to that, and allowed me to have a second wind and a revival to my career. Because that's all I saw, I was very grateful. So I jumped back into a full-time career. But I also had started, a side stream of income with this wellness company that completely transformed myself. And I saw a very big value for the dance industry. I really felt like a lot of people I knew would find a lot of value in what I had found and what had helped me. And that opened the door to personal growth and development. So as I personally grew, and as I got back in full time into the industry as a performer, I started to be everything started to be misaligned. And I realized through that personal development why I acted the way I did, why I behaved the way I did, is that I truly didn't feel beautiful just as Christy. So my beauty in my mind came from the way my body looked, and that I could articulate my physical body in a beautiful way. And that made me feel beautiful. But without that, and that's why I was so desperately clinging to it, without those two things, I felt like nothing. And I really do mean that. And it's so hard hitting to actually say that, because it's so far from how I feel now. But I just felt completely empty. Like you deflated if you took away dance, it deflated all the air out of me, and I had nothing. And, as I started to learn to love myself, I started to see a lot of the things that are just the way it is in this industry, the way it operates, the way we're, put in boxes of, you and I would never, ever, ever be cast the same, because of our height, because of our movement quality, because of our body types, all of the things. And I didn't want to be in a box anymore. I wanted to just be me. And I didn't feel like I was in a place where I could truly just be me and radiate out and fit in the mold of this industry. And so, actually this time last year, I was in a period of growth where I was really straddling two lives. I was growing into another version and going to down this path that I never would have imagined before. But my ego wanted to hold on to what was familiar. And, my ego still only felt beautiful by dancing. And I didn't realize that then. So I was in a really tug of war place a year ago. March of 2020 was the gentle hard shove of the universe that made me step over that line and really embrace what was ahead of me that felt good. And I just needed to own it and step into what I was growing into. So all my entertainment opportunities and jobs went away. Initially, they were going to close for 2 weeks in the US.
Right. Oh,
and
yes, I remember 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks. So, and actually here still, they are not back as an option for me. If I wanted them. So 2 weeks we were going to close. And as soon as I got word of that, the immediate feeling I felt was a wave of relief. Like you just took off a weighted coat off of me. And then that made me pause and say, I think you should take these 2 weeks to reflect on what that feeling is, because it was evident. And, 2020 has been a big, in the most wonderful way. And I don't want to belittle all that's gone on in the world. And I don't wish any of the pain that I've seen in 2020 on anyone. But I've really seen people have two perspectives of this year. They've either not been able to handle or adjust or pivot the way we've been asked or forced to, or you've been one that just goes with the ebbs and the flows. And I decided to not fight this wave and go with it and explore these feelings. So that's how it ended. And I really am in a place where, regardless of when the entertainment industry does open back up, I am really, really, really at peace with putting the book on the shelf and being grateful for the places all over the world I've traveled, the people that I've met, and just understanding that wasn't the life career that I imagined, and I've grown a different way, and that's okay. I'm at peace with that. I'm actually very happy with that.
Okay, well, I think we've got it all. Thank you. There's so many ways we could go. So there are a few things I would like to dig a little deeper on. And one is when you said fitting in the box, and I can so relate to that. Like I felt like this my entire life, and it is just like the unboxing of me is just happening too, right? Do you remember that moment where you just could no longer hang on to that old version of yourself? And because we're like, if you never have experienced what that feels like, it can be very scary. It feels like, something is breaking down, and we're as people are so scared of that. This is why so many people are still in their kitchens and doing class every day, because they're hanging on to what they know. And I can so relate to that. But if you dig a little deeper in what that moment was for you and what that felt like, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I know exactly that moment. So 2 weeks before everything shut down in March, I had an equity audition here in Orlando that at the time, I thought that I really wanted. I thought that was really like the last goal, I would say, or role that I would really be interested to kind of just close up my career with a pretty bow and call it good. And so at this time, I was like 2.5 years into personal development and growth. And I walked into that room, and there were 360 people, I think, auditioning that day, and maybe 5 people behind the table. And I'm very sensitive to energy now. I'm very aware of energy. And just the holding room before we even auditioned, I felt heavy and I felt very anxious. And it was like almost like the water was up to my chin, like feeling. And I started to get really nervous. And naturally, as there's so much buzzing and chatter in the room, it wasn't very clear of what I was nervous about. And, you just naturally think, oh, it's because you really, you want this role, or this is the last role that you are striving for, whatever it was. But really, as I reflect back on it, it was just the energy of everybody sizing everybody up. Prior, you know, people are stretching, people are looking at like what their rotation looks like and how flexible they are and what they look like in their outfit and all the things like that you just think are second nature, and you don't think anything of it when you're in it. But as soon as you go to work on yourself and do some inner work, you realize like I just don't have any interest in being in that kind of environment. I just don't. So I took that to the floor. And this audition, they kept all of us in the room together. So we learned the combination with that many people in the room. So obviously no one's doing any, you couldn't even do port de bras full out, let alone your legs. And, you know, then they lined us up numerically and we spiraled around the room as we just like lined up and went 4x4 across the floor. It was progression combination. And, with that many people, just watching everybody, like as the groups kept going, I started to get more and more nervous, and I could just feel it. It was starting to take over my whole body, like whole body shakes, because there was just so much. There was so much judgment. There was just so much judgment. And so when it got to be my turn, I at that point, from head to toe, I was physically shaking. If I had stood still, you would have seen me shaking. And it was just an overwhelming energy that I had in me that I knew, I did my first PK turn and I was like, this is not my body. I didn't even feel like this was my body. I had no muscle control. I felt like I had an out of body experience. I muscled through the combination, but it was not me. And I knew immediately, like, this is not, I'm getting cut. And whose body's dancing right now? And I wanted to just burst into tears then. And reflecting back after I got cut for sure, I was not dancing like me.
Just clear.
I didn't book it. When I left, I was so upset. And it wasn't even really with myself. I literally called my mom when I got in my car and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't endure this environment anymore. This feeling that I'm feeling right now, I don't want to ever feel again. It was very natural to feel this way before. It doesn't feel natural anymore, and I don't want it. And I just realized that was like my full body shutdown of just, this is not for you anymore. This is not.
You just can't.
You've grown. I just can't do it. And the acceptance of growth by far has been the hardest lesson for me. You spent 30 years dedicating, and I mean, I know that you understand too. My childhood was not a childhood by choice, completely by choice. And I don't regret it. This is my journey. Even, at Ailey, the college age life, that was not me. I danced 45 hours a week and I lived by myself in New York City. And that's what I did. I literally slept. I walked to school and I danced and I went home with my knuckles dragging and went to sleep and did it all again. So, to have that realization of, well, you just sacrificed so much of what people have in their life, weddings, birthdays, all the things. And you're just going to stop. And that was it was my ego that was clinging on to the shame of being a traitor. And those are the actual words that I heard.
Yeah.
That you are a traitor to the industry because you are not going to be a lifer. Yeah.
So just to top that off, I actually had that feeling 3 years into being in a theater and being in a professional company. I had no tools to discover what is going on. Like, why do I feel anxious all the time? And it just became worse and worse and worse every year. And B, I was like, what is that feeling of this is not for me? Why is this? Like, I spent all of my childhood, all of the years training for this to discover this is not for me, no, I cannot. I just cannot. And this pushing down of the truth just kept on continuing and continuing. And then with not allowing to feel all the feelings and exploring them. And as silly as that sound maybe, and I laughed at people telling me something like that 2 years ago, explore your feelings. What the hell are you meaning with that? Let them in, let yourself actually feel your feelings. That's what it means. And with not allowing that, you just keep losing more and more and more of who you are and what makes you special. And then you become a puppet that just works. And I kept on going for like 7 more years to be that puppet.
Yeah.
And this is I am so grateful to have had that lesson. And I'm sure you as well. I remember that phone conversation where you let it all out, and you knew exactly right after those tears had come out, okay, I'm good now. I am done. I am not a traitor.
Yeah.
And it is so imperative that we allow ourselves to feel what we feel in order to be ourselves. And I found that was never really encouraged. Nor explored or allowed.
Right. Oh, yes.
Yes. To, you just be in your box and you function as the little nutcracker doll in the first act. And that just doesn't fit it doesn't fit in being an artist, in my opinion, at all.
I used to call myself a dancing monkey. Because that's what the dance monkey dance quote. That's what I had transformed into at that point.
Okay. Let's talk about self-development, because you and I know how important and imperative it is and how it has saved our lives. Yeah. Why are we not seeing that as something that, should go hand in hand in the studios as artists, whoever you want to be? It doesn't mean, it has to be applicable only for dancers. I mean, like worldwide. And how isogenics has actually helped you to open that door for you.
I think in terms of the dance world, I believe that every teacher, choreographer, all of those people, artistic directors, they know what they've been taught or the way they've been taught. And I can say that from the perspective of when I started teaching and directing and choreographing, I set pieces and taught the way I was taught. And I was brought up in a ballet background as well, and it was pretty intense. I had a teacher that was a former ABT ballerina, and she used to scream at us going across the floor. Like, that's so, that I wasn't that necessarily that intense, but I was a very stern and very serious teacher, because I was in a very serious environment growing up. And so I took this very seriously. And it was like, somebody passed on the energetic baton to me as the example of how to run a room, even as a dance captain, how to clean numbers, how to keep everybody in line or molding them the way you wish to mold them. So I really think that the large part of our industry is just following suit with what they've known. And personal development wasn't something that people talked about, certainly not decades ago, or knew about. I didn't even know what I didn't know either. And I think that that's also ultimately the biggest thing, is we all are functioning at a level that we're all doing our best at this current moment. And the people who don't even understand what personal development is, or that there are tools and ways to be coached or mentored to allow ourselves to release some of the trauma that we all hold trauma every single one of us, whether it's extreme or, everybody has been picked on. Everybody has been made fun of, even if it's as light as that, as schoolyard bullying. We've all experienced that, or sibling bullying. So we hold those energetic patterns in our bodies because we don't know the difference. Our subconscious mind works our body is so complex. Our mind works in ways that we don't even understand. And the subconscious mind is so strong. So we're all walking around with trauma until we understand that we are, and we can't release it. And so I really think from that perspective, the industry just hasn't been exposed to even understand that is really something that would be beneficial for everybody, is to grow and to allow yourself to not hold on to things that happen to you when you're 8 years old anymore, when you're in your 30s. And we just naturally do when we don't know it. We don't know that we play those same records in our minds over and over with other people from past experiences until we are shown that. So, same thing. I entered Isogenics. I wanted help with my health. I wanted my dance career back. I wanted the stamina and the capacity to just be able to dance again for 8 to 10 hours a day. That's what I was looking for. And then I saw these people who were creating lives, without limits. And I had a lot of dreams that I had squashed away and thinking that they weren't possible. And watching these people, it inspired me to take a look. And so when I looked at this as perhaps I really at the beginning just wanted another income stream, so I didn't have to, rely on just my dance income as something to sustain us and a way to support my family more. Then I was exposed to personal development. I didn't even know what was going on, but once I opened it, it was like the floodgates of all the junk that I had stored in me for 30 years came flooding out. But I think for everybody, it takes that introduction into what it even is before you know how to explore it.
Okay, so much goodness there. That's it takes an introduction, exactly. Where are we gonna go from here? You said that. Do you think you were ready for it, or were you searching for, did you have that tiny little light, that little crack where the light was able to shine in and to take over the darkness, literally, because you can't unsee something all of a sudden. Once you're in, once that door is opened a little bit, you can't go back. You cannot go back to your old life. You cannot go back to your old self. It will literally diminish you.
Yeah.
However, that first crack is the hardest. And when we're looking at the industry, I'm not counting myself nor you in that position anymore. They are focusing on the way it has been for so many centuries, and focusing on traditions and focusing on the body only. But we are as human beings, and dancers are human beings, like athletes of God, whatever you want to call it, first and foremost, energetic beings that not only work physically, but there's so much more that is us as human beings that I find, if it's out of alignment, you are not your very best person in the studio. And that was my biggest learn over the last 3 years. Oh my gosh, if I had known what I know today around me as a whole, I could have been a star, because all that shitty trauma that I had encountered through my childhood and my years in ballet school, that was all that held me back. And it's not the trauma itself, it's the awareness, or the lack of awareness, it being there and it being the catalyst of not being able to step into that where I wanted to be. And with that, you keep manipulating, very hard word, manipulating yourself so you can stay the same.
Yeah.
I can see that now, but I didn't see it there. It's like, why am I keep drinking? Like, why am I keep repeating the same pattern? Why am I smoking so much? Why am I keep dating guys that are awful to me?
Yeah.
And I think it's that. So back to my question, the crack in the door. When was that? Like, do you remember?
Yes. The crack in the door for me was, I can be super authentic because my husband and I are a very open book. The summer before I found Isogenics, so it was in 2017 of June, my husband voluntarily checked himself into an inpatient facility for alcoholism. And we had been through a lot in the 2.5 years of our marriage prior to that point. And part of my conditioning was I was very codependent. I was codependent from my childhood, and I brought it into my relationship and then my marriage. So I had really allowed the alcoholism to bring my own life down a path that I didn't recognize, not in my own substance, but just in the decisions that I was making, in the choices I was making, as far as like my career and what I was taking for jobs. And I kind of just realized, how did I get here? How did I get here? And I at the time, I really had kept cutting my goals smaller and smaller and smaller. So I had really had a period where I just like took all of the goals that I had and just shrunk them. Oh, I don't really want to be on
your
Broadway.
Ego, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't really want to be on Broadway. It's fine. Oh, I don't really want to go back out on the road. It's fine. Like those type of things. And I just got so small that when he was away for 30 days. And so I was alone to be left with, okay, you've allowed another person situation. And I know a spouse, it's a team, but a lot of the direction I had gone in was just to based off of him in a codependent capacity. And so I said, you have to find yourself. Who are you? I didn't even recognize who I was at that point. Like, who are you with these this small mindedness, this small like dreams? Where'd you go? And so I cracked that open. I found naturally somehow the law of attraction. And I found my way back to meditation. I had meditated in my early 20s, really abandoned that. I'm not really sure how or why. And I said, at the time I was riddled with anxiety and panic attacks on a weekly basis. And it just got to the point where I said, it was physically affecting my health. I can't keep living like this. Something has to change. And I understood that it was all my doing. And something in me understood that I had the control to get myself out of it. So that's really where it started. It started with meditating and looking at like, what's manifesting? What's law of attraction? What is this? And kind of just not even knowing what I was doing, or I was kind of just led places. I found, I picked up Wayne Dyer's books again. And I started down that path. And then, I have a happy ending to this. Now, 3.5 years later, my husband's still sober. He's also gone through a personal development journey. So he is like solid in sobriety. So we've really had a parallel personal growth journey, which has been so immensely strong for our marriage. It's just been amazing. But ultimately, it took two individual people making decisions for themselves to start that. And that's really how it started. So a few months later, I found Isogenics, and it just kind of was the natural progression. So it was like, I felt like that was my low. That was the call out to God or universe, whatever you say. It's my thing and your thing, however we word it, is we're all kind of talking about the same thing. It was like the call out energetically of, I need assistance. I'm at a pitfall. Where do I go? And I just really have been naturally kind of led people to, I mean, look, we
met.
just naturally found each other too. That's what's been happening to me for the last 3.5 years is situations, opportunities, books, people have just started to as I allow it to come and I stop resisting and I want the guidance, it's coming to me.
Yeah. Having that faith, right? And I find so for me personally, I was never allowed to have that because that was woo-woo stuff. And in a communist country, there's no such thing. Like your faith is your leader. And just stripping that back though, like if we're looking at the industry itself, like faith is not something that was ever encouraged because on a faith base, you're not performing. Like you can't just have faith in your body and it's going to come.
Right.
Looking back at it though, it was the missing link.
Right. Yes.
Because my body was capable.
Yes.
Oh, was it capable? But I didn't have the faith.
Right. Right.
So, as out there it may seem for others, you and I have found that I would say peace and the trust that, faith can be even have faith in yourself and believe in who you are and what you want to do. And before you can do that, you have to find who you are first.
Yes.
And I think it's that journey that can be really quick. Like for those that are impatient people like me.
Yeah.
You don't see it while you're in it. You don't see it while you want to be there. You only see it when you're looking back. And this is why it is so important that we, on a consistent basis, take inventory where we're at, where do we want to be? Do we have a vision? Where do we want to go?
Yeah.
And dream as big as you can. And I feel this negative talk that we have been acquiring during our training was always in the way. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. 100%. Piggybacking on what you said earlier is, if outside of the energy that comes with entertainment, if you just put me back on stage and give me choreography, the presence that I live day to day and moment to moment now would completely change my movement quality than what I had when I was performing, because I mean, the body is truly a miracle because of all the things that were going through my mind while I danced. It was never just release and let be and be present and be in the moment. It was, break down every aspect of my body and what am I doing, and the technique, who's in the audience, who's in the wings, like all the stuff
that we worry about, and that is so in the way, right?
Yeah. Yes. So there would be a lot more enjoyment from my dancing with this level of perspective and peace, but we spend a lot more time not on the stage. We spend a lot more time backstage or in the studio in the environment that I know for me, I can't go back to. I mean, that audition was proof that that's just not, my body's physically rejecting that kind of energy now. So it's very interesting because I was anything but present as I danced. I actually had a conversation with a dancer a few weeks ago, and I mentioned that I most of the time couldn't even tell you the song that I was dancing to. If we were in class and we were going across the floor or even at the bar, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what the pianist just played at all, because that wasn't what I didn't get lost in the movement. That was never me. This was about attention for me. This is another reason why I can let it go. I realized in 2020 that I never truly just loved dance for the movement. And I didn't know this. I liked the attention. Like I said, I thought that was the way I was beautiful. So those were the things that were driving me. And then the perfection. So I could have accolades, or someone would maybe say one good thing out of the 20 critiques that I would get in class. I would get one, and I would just be waiting for that. So it was like I was always performing for someone to fill voids that I didn't know how to fill myself. So
when we're talking about fun and creating and you cannot just go on stage and say, okay, I'm going to just have fun and I'm going to turn off everything that I practiced in my mind for the past 8 weeks before preparing for the show. And I feel that is where another gap is between stage and studio, between self-development and training in the studio, is that we think the performance is just going to bring it out in us and we don't need to learn it. We don't need to practice it. There is no need, because it's just going to show up. Right. And that is the biggest lie out there. You need to practice shutting everybody out every single day, just for the same amount of time as you're practicing having your muscle react to what you're telling them to do. And I personally feel if either of us would have had that gift, that tool on knowing how to do that, I think both of our careers would have looked differently. And it's not coming from a place of anger or pointing or saying, hey, you guys screwed us up. No, not at all. We didn't know. No. Nobody knew.
No, yeah, they didn't know either.
No. And how?
Right.
2020, though, is like the gift for us to look at everything that we're doing from different perspectives and ask the questions, hey, yes, I know I have been operating this way for so long and it got me here, but is that really where I want to be? And even if you are, I don't know, the principal of your company, is that really where your all of your potential lies, or is there more for you? And what does that look like? Who do you have to become, right? And I feel that is so imperative, that you may be running against everybody else, but who cares? Yeah. Like, find that inner courage to just really do the art, the dancing for yourself and for nobody else.
Yeah. I never found that for myself.
Me neither.
No. I mean, even in class, I had so much anxiety, really, dancing, but I was like that in every aspect of life. So I didn't know better. I didn't live in peace. I was anxious all the time about everything. So it just wasn't, I didn't correlate it. It just wasn't dance. It was just my energy state at the time. That I didn't even notice it as an irritant until that last audition this year. And then I realized that it was just a natural instinct for me to be in that body. And I used to know how to move in that body, and now I didn't. So for me, it was never just release and move for movement's sake. It was, it's awesome that, I know people that are like that can just do that. And that was never what dance was for me.
Okay. Last question.
Yeah.
Looking at yourself right now today, what is one thing you would tell your 16-year-old self, 20-year-old self? One thing, that little younger version of yourself, to perhaps spare her from pain, or, just a piece of advice, I'd say.
Ooh, there's so many things. I want to just grab her head.
Oh gosh, honey, we had lots of conversations already.
Yeah, is to not allow outside forces to dictate your level of worth. Sorry, not
Well,
wealth,
it's
not
the same thing.
worth,
Not,
worth.
yeah.
I only felt good about myself in times where, being completely transparent, because I'm an open book to the version that I used to be. In situations where I was the best dancer, or in situations where I was more experienced, or that, then I had confidence. In any other situation, if the external world around me was a certain way, that's how I felt about myself. And so my thermostat was set to raise or lower based on everyone else and everything else around me. So it would be that, is to have your thermostat set at a level of worthiness that no matter what you encounter, who encounters, what they say to you, whatever it is, that you don't allow that to dictate how you feel about yourself. I didn't have that at 30, let alone at 16. So yeah.
Something else I want to ask you before we part. That generation of dancers and artists that is unable to perform right now. What would your gift be for them? Like, what is it that you would give them as a piece of advice from your heart,
I've thought about this a lot, actually, because I actually have said this to my husband of, I can't imagine what it's like to be 22 right now. It's a lot easier at 35 to say, okay, we're going to put the book on the shelf. But thinking about me fresh out of Alien, so excited to just be going. What I will still say is what I said in the beginning of this is, 2021, there's two perspectives. We can either fight this wave and try to crash into it, or we can ride it and go with the ebbs and the flows. So right now, find what will spark your creativity, find what will keep that fire even just dwindling, just like at a low point. Like what can fill you up each day energetically, what can make you fired up, what can just make you feel amazing, regardless of if your company's not back, if your Broadway show is not back, if your theaters aren't open. What can you be doing each day that makes you feel so excited and so full of gratitude? And do that every single day. And understand that, this is a very challenging time, but eventually this too shall pass. Regardless of where it goes, we don't really know, but I know, we're not going to live in this world like this forever. So, how can you keep your creative juices flowing? And how can maybe you, while you do that, while you keep your body the way you want it to and prepared to be back when it's back, what else do you love that you haven't had time for before, that maybe you could put some focus on? That maybe, I always had stuff. I have my fine art. I love to paint. I love art. And that's actually something that I just started picking up again recently, because regardless of where it goes, I'm releasing expectations. It fills me up. It lights me up, and it allows me to move forward with the rest of my day, whatever else I have going on. So what is that for you? And then, is there something else that you've always thought about maybe doing down the road after your dance career that maybe you could just start now, even if it's a little bit, not changing a career, if that's not what you're ready for? Everything has to feel in alignment with you, but can you grow in a way that maybe you wouldn't have time for in your company setting during your full season? I think this is the time. This is also, I feel like, in a very small way, I hesitate to say these words, but in a lot of ways it's definitely not, but 2020 is a bit of a gift for us to get quiet and slow down and go within. The people that are going within right now and are listening to what that, like the quiet voice that's, you step outside on a New York City sidewalk, you're not going to hear. But if you sit and just sit with yourself, you're going to hear, or him, what are they saying? That's perhaps what I would recommend taking some time to focus on, and not being so hung up on, when is everything going to go back to normal? When are we going to open the studio again? When are we going to whatever? All that's going to do is create more turmoil in you. And if you lean into what is going on around you right now, you might be able to hear something that you can't hear sitting in that other space.
Power in the pause, right? Allow yourself to just sit and hear, listen. Yeah. And that's particularly hard for dancers, though, because we compensate by moving.
Yes.
Always. It's still hard for me to just be still.
Yes, me too.
So it's not easy.
And I won't belittle the energies and the emotions around what is going on with entertainment this year. It's so sad, and it really does break my heart too. So I won't belittle, what people are enduring, and that it's just so unprecedented. But we can make choices of how we react or respond to challenges, no matter what they are. They're tests, and we're all being tested in a different way this year. So what is your test? And if it's not clear for you yet, I would invite you to take some time and see what that is for you.
That just brought up something else when you said, it's not easy to be an artist right now. I don't think in North America it is easy at all to be an artist. And I feel like 2001, 2008, 2009, 2010 were just tiny 2x4s hitting the arts over the head, saying, hey, listen, guys, perhaps it's time to wake up and to look at things differently. Like, the way we're going may not be sustainable for all the end of time. And if we're not reacting to these 2x4s, they just get bigger and louder and more present, and they just don't go away.
Right.
And I feel that 2020 is the 20x40 piece of wood that was hit over the head for all of us, because if you look at the globe itself, we were heading down a path in a lane that was high speed, but very unhealthy. And the universe has just a beautiful way on putting on the brakes, and whatever it thinks it needs to do, that's just going to happen. And yes, it hurts and it's painful, but with every pain and fire and death, always something new is going to be born. Always. It's the law.
Yes, I agree.
My love, thank you. Thank you so much for this. Like, I could talk to you forever. I can't wait until I can get on a plane and fly down to Orlando and hug you and hold you. Yes. Thank you, my love. I'm going to link up in the show notes where everybody can find you. Christy's putting out like how would you call it? Like a diary, or you have 20 episodes already where you can talk about your own journey. And I think even if you just listen to you talk about your own journey, it may just spark little things that you can see in yourself. So I would really encourage her. So follow her. That's what I really want to say. And look at her Facebook Lives. So there you go.
Thank you.
All right, my love. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.